الحمد لله حمد كثير طيب مبارك فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. Amma ba'd. Welcome to another episode of the Heart Matters podcast. We are continuing with the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala with the explanation by Sheikh Abdul Razzaq al-Badr hafidhullah. And we are on the tremendous hadith number 19 of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. Hadith number 19, the hadith of Ibn Abbas. Yani, there are three accounts of this hadith. There is one, the one that we're about to read first is the one in At-Tirmidhi. And there is another narration of the hadith which is also in Tirmidhi. And then there's a narration of the hadith in the Musnad of Imam Ahmed rahimahullah. So we will read the first one from Tirmidhi, and then I want to read the one from the Musnad of Ahmed, narrated on the authority of Abu Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, who said, one day I was riding behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to me, Ya ghulam, inni u'allimuka kalimatat. O young man, I'm going to teach you some words. Ihfadh Allah yahfadhka. Ihfadh Allah tajidahu tujahak. Guard Allah, preserve Allah, and Allah will preserve you. Guard Allah, preserve Allah, and you will find him in front of you. إِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ فَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. If you ask Allah. And if you seek help from Allah. Wa'alam, and know, anna al-ummata law ijtama'at ala an yanfa'uk bi-shay, an yanfa'uka bi-shay, lam yanfa'uka illa bi-shay'in qad katabahu Allahu lak. And know that if the whole nation was to gather together to try to benefit you with something, they would not be able to benefit you with it except for what Allah has written for you. وَإِنِ اجْتَمَعُوا عَلَىٰ أَن يَضُرُّكَ بِشَيْءٍ لَمْ يَضُرُّكَ إِلَّا بِشَيْءٍ قَدْ كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ. And if all of the nations were to gather together to try to harm you with something that Allah had not written for you, they won't be able to harm you with it. Al-aqlamu wa jaffati sufi wa jaffati suhuf. The pens have been lifted. Rufi'at al-aqlamu wa jaffati suhuf. The pens have been lifted and the pages are dry. This is the narration in Tirmidhi. Now I'm going to read to you, because listen, this is a tremendous hadith that every Muslim should have with him. Every Muslim should have this hadith with him. It is tremendous hadith. And we're going to he taught this to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu before he reached the age of puberty. He taught this hadith to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu before he reached the age of puberty. The hadith in the Musnad of Ahmad. I was riding behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to me, "O young man, shall I teach you some words by which Allah will benefit you?" I said, "Certainly." He said, "Be mindful of Allah, and Allah will protect you. Be mindful of Allah, and you will find him in front of you. Become beloved to him during times of ease, and he will know you during times of hardship. If you ask Allah. If you seek help in Allah. The pens have been lifted with what will occur. If all of the creation wanted to benefit you with something that Allah had not decreed for you, they would not be able to benefit you with it. And if they wanted to harm you with something that Allah had not recorded for you, they would not be able to harm you with it. Realize that there is a great deal of good, khayran kathira, in having sabr over things you dislike. Realize, know that victory accompanies sabr, relief accompanies difficulty, and ease accompanies hardship. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Yani, we're going to try to do as much explanation of this hadith as we possibly can. I need it as a reminder for myself, and it is important for every Muslim to strive to understand and implement this hadith. Now, so I'm going to read what Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr said about this hadith. But we're not going to be finished with just his commentary. We're going to have to gather some other commentary about this hadith and read it from at least one other scholar. Now, Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, he says, the phrase, ihfadullah, be mindful of Allah, and Allah will protect you. It means preserving the limits set by Allah by complying with His commands and avoiding His prohibitions. Believing in the revelation and worshiping Him according to what He legislated, not through desires and bid'ah. Let's stop here for a second. That's not being mindful of Allah. You can't, listen, we can't worship Allah any way we want to. We can't worship Allah any way we want to. We can't worship Allah any way we want to. Islam is why and how. That's it. That's all Islam is. It's why and how. Why are we doing the deed? And when it comes to the why, there are hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says that you are rewarded for every good that you do, even if it's putting food in your wife's mouth. Why is an individual rewarded for that? Because if he's doing it because this is how he strengthens his bond with his wife for the sake of Allah. Or he's doing it because he's providing for his wife and his family because Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell him to do that. He's rewarding it. So the why can elevate even regular everyday deeds that an individual does to acts of ibadah. But the why has to be connected to either seeking the face of Allah or connected to something that Allah is pleased with, trying to save yourself from the hellfire, trying to get the Jannah, seeking His bounties and His pleasure, and like this. And the second matter is it has to be done in accordance to the sunnah of Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We can't do it any way we want. We can't do it any way we want. Because if we try to do it any way we want, Allah's not accepting it. We can do it until we turn blue in the face. He's not accepting it. He's only accepting it if it's done based on what He sent His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with. That's it. We can't do it any way we want. I'm gonna read the example, but we gotta talk about this. I'm gonna read the explanation, but we gotta talk about this. Because we want the protection of Allah. This is how you get it. This is one of the means that you get it. By not worshiping Allah based on whatever we want to do. So I'm going to give you an example. And people who hear this, they may not like it. I'm talking about Muslims. But when it comes to ibadah, this is a fiqh principle. When it comes to worship, and dua is worship. Dua is worship. The Prophet said, at dua huwa ibadah. Dua is worship. When it comes to worship, it is not upon the individual who says you can't do that to prove it. It's not upon him. Because the scholars have deduced, they let it, they deduce that individual can play games with that. And he could say, well, there's no hadith that says you can't do it. An individual can play games with that. So the individual who said that you can't do it, he's looking in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and he's trying to find a hadith where the Prophet says something that said you can't make 5 rak'ahs for dhuhr. You're never going to find that hadith. You're never going to find that. Why are you never going to find that? Because the Prophet says something never made 5 rak'ahs for dhuhr. So the individual who says that you can make 5 rak'ahs for dhuhr, he has to produce a hadith that says you can make 5 rak'ahs for dhuhr. He has to produce it. That's for ibadah. And dua is ibadah. I'm saying this because the example I'm going to bring up is about dua. Where's the hadith? Where is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ made dua after salah? Where's the hadith? Look, if somebody has it, send it to me. Where is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ made dua after salah? Where he salamed out, he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and he started making dua. Where's the hadith? The Prophet ﷺ prayed with his companions 10 years in Medina, in congregation. There isn't one hadith, not even ahad hadith, that reported that the Prophet ﷺ made dua after he salamed out in salah. It's not one. Okay, well, why are we doing that? Because mind you, dua is ibadah. Why are we doing that? Because we will only find that when the Prophet salamed out, he made dhikr. That's it. He made dhikr of Allah. He didn't make dua. He made dua in the salah. He made dua. So when he said, make dua at the end of the salah, the tashahhud is the end of the salah. The salah is over. That's when you make dua. Not when you salam out. How do we know? Because he never did it. If somebody has an authentic hadith where he made dua when he salamed out, send it to me. But I'm gonna say you don't have one. You don't have an authentic hadith where he did that, because he never did that. None. The Sheikh says, if you do so, Allah will protect you in both your religious and worldly affairs. a reward that goes in line with your deeds. In other words, the reward is the same type as the action. If you're mindful of Allah, if you protect your relationship with Allah by doing what He ordered, staying away from what He prohibited, and not worship Him in any type of way, then He will protect you, both in deen and in dunya. To explain, since your action is preservation of the limits of Allah, the reward is also divine preservation. Number 2, be mindful of Allah and you will find Him in front of you. Means Allah will protect you and manage all your religious and worldly affairs. Number 3, the phrase, if you ask Allah alone. And if you seek help from Allah alone. Has the same connotation as the ayah that reads, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help for each and everything. Now, asking Allah is dua. And dua is an act of worship. So the meaning is that a Muslim should worship Allah alone, ask Him alone to fulfill his needs, and seek help from Him alone in all of his worldly and hereafter matters. Let's stop here for a second. This is important. This whole hadith, all of it is important. This is important. Ask Allah for everything. There are reports from the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if their sandal strap broke, if one of their sandal straps broke, they would ask Allah to give them new sandals or a new strap. They would make dua to Allah to give them a new sandals or a new strap. Do not be fooled by shaitan trying to make you believe that asking for little things like that is not important. No, it's important. Why? Because Allah loves to be asked. He loves when His slaves ask Him. It doesn't matter what we ask Him for as long as it's halal. Ask Him for everything and seek help from Him for everything. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that. We'll get into that later on, inshallah. Maybe in the next episode. Let's try to finish this, inshallah. He says, asking Allah is dua. And dua is an act of worship. So the Muslim should worship Allah alone and ask Him alone to fulfill his needs and seek help from Him alone in all of his worldly and hereafter matters. In addition, he should employ all the lawful means and ask Allah to make these means beneficial. In this regard, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk, wasta'in billah, wala ta'jiz, Strive, be haris in seeking that which benefits you, and seek help from Allah. And do not refrain from it. Don't stop doing it. Don't stop doing it. Don't become weak. Don't become lazy. Don't be like, look, I asked and asked and asked and asked, and Allah still didn't give it to me. No, keep going. Keep going. When you read the tafsir of the dua that Zakaria alayhi salam made, where he asked Allah to give him a son, a child, it's stated in the tafsir that he was 60 years old when he made that dua. He was 60 when he first made that dua. Allah did not answer the dua until he was in his 90s. That's why when he answered, he sent the angel and told him he was going to get a son. He was going to have a son. That's why Zachariah said, "Ya Allah, how can I have a son when I'm old? I'm an old man, and my wife is barren." That's why he said it. Not because he didn't believe that Allah answered. No, he was just amazed. He's old. He's old now. He's making that dua since he was 60 years old. He's 90-something now. Don't stop. Keep going. Number 4. And know that if the nations were to gather together to benefit you with anything, they would not be to benefit you with it except what Allah has written for you. And if they were to gather together to harm you with something, they wouldn't be able to harm you with it except for what Allah has written for you. The pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. The Sheikh says, after he mentioned that Allah alone should be asked and his help should be sought, he tells us that every single thing is in the hand of Allah. But I hope we get, subhanAllah, may Allah bless us to get this, man, and understand this hadith. He tells us, after he told Ibn Abbas, to if you ask Allah for everything. If you seek help from Allah for everything. He told Ibn Abbas, and he's telling us, every single thing is in the hands of Allah. Nothing happens unless he allows it to happen. That's it. The Sheikh says there is no objection to what he gives, nor a giver for what he withholds. That everything cannot be out of his scope, out of the scope of his will, and that people cannot benefit you with something that Allah has not decreed for you. Nor can they harm you with something that Allah had not decreed for you. And that everything happens or does not happen according to qadr. This is why he said, the pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. This means that every incident has already been predestined and recorded, and thus it has to happen. Accordingly, the meaning of lifting the pens and drying the pages is that everything that is destined has been already recorded in Lahul Mahfuz, in the preserved tablets. Thus, it must take place in accordance with what is predestined. Actually, these sentences prove the obligation of believing in Qadr, which is the sixth pillar of Iman in the famous Hadith of Jibril. We're not going to be able to finish this explanation today. We're going to have to come back in the next episode and finish this explanation bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد